Alrighty, everybody, welcome to my first co-hosting edition here of Outlaw Radio at the time of this recording. And yes, it is a recording. It is just me, the Outlaw Adam Knight, hanging out here with you. We're going to be talking in just a few minutes here. Let me get myself actually up on the screen. Here we go. Can everybody see me? There we are. We're back in the saddle now. All right, everybody. Hi, the Outlaw Adam Knight. Again, as I said before, here's my basic preamble. If this is your first time here, thank you for being here. Again, I am the Outlaw Adam Knight. I've been a pro wrestler since 1995, based out of Central Canada. I'm also an author. I've got books. I've got all that other stuff. But today we're going to do something a little bit different. This is a pre-recorded episode, and I'm just testing out the technology right now. So if it's a little clunky, that's what's going on here. But I've got a good friend of mine, one of our trainees at Blaze Pro Wrestling, but more than just a trainee. He's been active for a number of years now. I don't want to diminish him when I say that in any way, shape, or form. So I'm just going to bring him on. I'll do the preamble and the post-amble stuff at the end. So if this is working out okay, I'd like to have my good friend, Mr. Mustachio, join us here on the show. Stash, is that all working for you? Can you still hear me okay? You're very welcome, my friend. I've got you back on here as well, and you can hear me. That's what matters. Great. Again, this is the first time I'm trying to do this, to have a chance to chat with somebody else on here. Eventually, I'm going to be able to do these live, I hope. But since I usually do these 10 p.m. on a Wednesday, that's problematic for most people. So it's going to be what it's going to be. So I'm going to get Stash on here. First of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about you. I first met you a few years ago when we were working for a different company, and that's fine, where you were sort of thrust upon the idea of getting into the ring by doing at the risk of being in trouble with the lovely people from Nintendo, doing a Super Mario Brothers gimmick. Is that sort of my understanding of how that happened for you? Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a tricky thing, trying to, just break into the business in any way, shape, or form, or on any level. Lord knows you mentioned Robbie Royce. Back when I first started 30 years ago, I certainly put up with my level of, being ribbed and, being given silly ideas and shenanigans that I had to deal with in order just to get going. But unfortunately, that's just part of the process sometimes. You break in how you break in, and if you can stick it out and start putting in some time and putting in some reps, then you get to go somewhere from there. Now, I won't lie, the first time I saw you do the shtick, my old school mentality wanted to hit the roof, because I'm like, what in the absolute fuck is this? But I will give you credit, and I want to be very fair about this. I'm allowed to say I can make mistakes too, and I saw your interactions with the crowd, and you were hardly, even then a few years ago, the worst performer on that show. And this is faint praise. I am damning you with faint praise, and I'm sorry for it, right? Because we all suck. We all sucked at one point in time, and I still suck. It's very much a compliment to which I'll be straight up with you, right? You proved to me then, and you still continue to do that now, that you can be an effing entertaining fellow, and I love that. And I love that, because at the end of the day, that's the name of the game, right? You're well, that's all right. We have to eat our shit in order to go forward. I promise you. And And we all eat our shit. Right? To this day, I know I still get it when I'm not around the training centers, and I know they don't have message boards and shit anymore. But I've eaten my turds as well, right? So I want it's coming from a good place. It's coming from a good place. I won't say how much I respect the fact that you didn't get into it at a tender age. You got into it a little bit later on, where you've got life experience and all that other stuff, and that's challenging in its own right. So yeah, go on. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's fine, man. Better late than never is okay. Like, just because I started off at 18, now as I'm rounding the corner on 50, doesn't mean I really know anything about what I'm doing at this point in time either. But at least I've got some reps under me, so that's fine. No, but what I like about you, Stash, and some people don't get it, but I do, is the fact that the most important part of the match is, do they care? Do they care? Right? Now, that's sometimes the benefit of age and wisdom and the experience of, not being a young guy that's, and I'm not saying that you don't give a shit about your match being good, because we've worked very hard in training to, snug up your stuff and get a lot of the air out of, like, the holds out of the way and to make sure your offense is a little bit better. And we're working on your conditioning and stuff as well. It is what it is. If you saw my last couple of matches and just how terribly gassed I was after doing 37 whole seconds in a match, sorry, honey, it's a problem, but we're doing the best we can to just, to deliver. But again, you've found through committing to the whole, the red gear, the hat, wearing the mustache 24/7, which I tell you, that right there is a commitment that I do not have. I do not have that commitment. Well, you're having a pretty good tear though. Like, all joking aside, like, the stuff we do with Billy and the team at Blaze Pro is great, and we've been having great success with our shows we've been running in town and also on out of town and stuff. But you've been making some waves for a while now. I know you've teamed up with Moses Luke and Toxic Tyler James, and you guys have had a good little trio thing going for a bit. Which, tell me a little bit about that. How's life been on the road going with you guys? Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's the intangible that you can't buy that, right? Like all the reps, all the bumps, all the other stuff doesn't matter. Again, it's being able to connect with the kids, man. That's a hell of a metaphor. You can cuss. It's okay. That's awesome. That's awesome. Like it's oh, it's true, man. It's funny how the wrestling industry goes in cycles. Now, if we're going to talk about that for a minute, I do think that's interesting, because I broke in like in 1995. I say quite proudly, I'm riding the coattails of my third wrestling wave. When you think about it, like I got in just before the Attitude Era hit, so I was there when it sank. Then we had that second boom that came up as John Cena was getting very popular, and there was a bit of youth and aggression when it took a little while for that to get going. But once you started doing decent business and you started having some good opponents, then things were getting really good for a bit there. Things were getting really strong, and it was nice to see. Some of the indie offices were picking up. The industry worldwide was picking up. Suddenly there was a lot of interest in everything else. What I noticed most about that is, as we got the end of the Attitude Era into that era, it became less and less about entertaining the kids and more about entertaining the kids that have now grown up and trying to keep those guys, which is admittedly what they were. Like the Attitude Era guys were like the holdover of the rock and wrestling crew that then grew up in the 90s. Then they went away. It was harder to develop the new kids to come on up, so we were trying to hang on to the guys who were there, and then it petered out again for a bit. But now, honestly, since 2019, as New Japan became All Elite Wrestling, which became the whole world opening up post-COVID to where we are now, where you got your WWEs on your Netflix, so the whole world can watch it all the time. Like it's Riyadh season apparently this weekend, and all the rest of it. It's really fascinating now. And I'm not saying that our guys at Blaze Pro or at CWE or Canada Mountain, Alberta, the guys at High Impact in Saskatchewan, all across the country, all across the Indies, places are selling out because people are just ready for their pro wrestling action on every level, and I love it, and I think it's fantastic. But what I love the best about it is seeing how we have. I'm tired of hearing about the conversation of the last 20 years, like, we gotta get the lapsed fan, we gotta get the lapsed fan. No, we've got fans, and now we've got new fans. I love that. Right? There are literally people coming to me at shows now saying, I used to watch you 20 years ago, and I'd like you to meet my kid who's 12. you know, Blows my mind, and I love it. It's great. It's really great to see, and it's an interesting experience. But it has been interesting to watch the evolution of the wrestling industry locally, anyway, over the last 30 years, to what it's becoming. Yep. Yeah. I'll give those guys credit for this, and this might sound odd coming from me, given I'm sure they say lovely things about me in that locker room, but I will say this: I love the fact that they're very committed to the city, and trying to take their brand to different venues. I love the idea of them running the concert hall. I love the idea of the fact that they run the Burt once a year. The fact they've tried to do stuff at the Museum of Manitoba Museum is like, it's mind-boggling to think that nobody ever tried that before. And the fact that they're pulling it off, I hope they're not losing their ass on it, but I hope that they're doing okay in the process, right? And they're well, it, somebody's getting paid, that's for sure, and bless them. That's I want to make it very clear. I'm not throwing any shade. I'm not calling anybody money marks. Lots of guys are getting a lot of business there, and I will admit I had my issues with that office when they started for many very legitimate reasons, but since then they've gone and they've done well for themselves. So I can admit maybe I was wrong, and that's okay. Yep. Yeah. What sorry. No, go ahead. Yeah. And I would agree with that. I would like nothing drove me crazier over the course of time than everybody trying to do their version of the Monday Night Wars with like local wrestling. I'm like, what are we doing, right? Right? Why are we trying to cut each other's balls off for like the 40 or 50 people that might be coming to each show? Whereas now we're all sort of like just trying to work together and trying to get along, and suddenly the business is hot and everybody's eating, and that's okay. Isn't that a nice thing? Like, not, it's not perfect. Are there still problems? Of course there's still problems, but those are, human error problems, and hopefully we can work through all of those things. And again, this is not just a Winnipeg, Manitoba thing. I'm seeing this across North America. You're seeing fewer problems interpromotionally between groups in the Midwest, United States, across like Ontario's been ahead of this curve forever. There's like 12 different companies that work around the Greater Toronto area, and the best guys work in them all, right? And it's been nice to see out in Alberta. It's been nice to see British Columbia, them opening up those doors a little bit. No longer so the All Star versus the Extreme Canadian Championship Wrestling Wars, or whoever was like, they're all working together, and that's awesome. It's awesome. There's no need for the headaches. Yeah. Absolutely. No, I agree. That certainly is the goal and the potential if you're going to do it, right? You want it to be as collaborative and welcoming as possible. Nobody likes gatekeepers in any industry. I assure you of that. Nobody likes any freaking gatekeepers. All right. All right. Well, while we're like, again, I really appreciate your time today, Stash, for to doing this for me as I'm trying to figure out this tech, and I think I've got it kind of handled here, even though it's going to still be a little clunky. Yeah, as it may. What I will say, and I think we talked about this at the training center the other day, so I would like to rehash it here a little bit now. Considering the type of gimmicks that you operate and that I operate, and how much more beneficial it is for us to be doing very stripped down, basic type of offense for the crowds, right? Like I do think it's fascinating that guys like you and I have such an affinity for, say, the technical, like especially European style, like the classic world of sports stuff. I get so excited if I can watch a Johnny Satan Rollerball Rocco match, if I can watch any of the old Dynamite Kid and Tiger Mask stuff that I've not seen before. Anytime I see that sort of really intricate stuff that Mike Quackenbush still shows guys when he does his training centers or his training camps from Mexico to Paraguay, it's not for me, but I love it. And I don't know what it is about it. I think it's because it always feels like a magic trick in some way when you watch these men and women getting in and out of these neat little holes, right? And how in those crowds, those times are just so invested, and how difficult it is in today's climate to try to get that stuff over now. Like, sorry, I don't really have a question. I was just going on about the power of Johnny Saint. But it's, what is it about that draws your attention? What is it about that tickles your fancy? Yeah, he was a shooter. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. No, that's great. That's great. To me, it's always been like if if modern pro wrestling, from the '80s is very much like a Schwarzenegger movie. I always found pro wrestling that's of the European or the lucha libre ground based style to be very much like a detective film. It's a mystery. It's how do we get out of this? How do we get to the next part? What is the red herring? What is it? It's a different level to the psychology at a very fundamental on the mat base, and I've always thought that to be just it much like doing moonsaults. It tickles my fancy because I can't do it, and I find it just so great, so great. Yes, yes. I went to Denny's. I ordered the moon over my hammy, and I added extra salt on it. There we go. Oh, you're a generous laugher. I'm gonna have you on every week. Stash, I really appreciate you giving me your time today. Uh, Plugs? Do you have any online stuff you want to put over before I shut this down? Yeah, absolutely, man. I'd love to talk again down the road when stuff's happening in the world of wrestling that we can chat about. I'd love to talk a little bit further. Again, thank you for your time today. This has been obviously a pre-recorded episode. Thank you everyone for your patience in that one. I'm out of town by the time you see this, so there it is. I'd want to make sure I didn't miss an episode. Please, of course, check out all the links that are down below in the description. If you're looking for gifts of a literary persuasion, I do happen to have books available on Amazon. Please do go check that out. Go to Great White North or ProWrestlingTees.com for any of my t-shirts and my merch that you've got going on there. And honest to goodness, I really just want to say thank you everyone for coming on out today. Thank you for giving us your time. February 27th, Blaze Pro Wrestling, No Love Lost. This is the next time I'm going to be in action. I'm taking on the hometown man himself, TNA's Cody Deaner, in what should be a very exhausting, blowing my ass up type of match, but I'm going to give it my all and prove why I am, what is it, Stash? The best goddamn heavyweight champion in all of Canada. Let's have a great night, everybody. Thank you for your time today. Good night.